What was the
So by
staff
that next
saying?
Friday,
Like, whenever did you report it to the staff and go, "Hey, I think something's wrong with my dad. Like, he's not."
yes,
What did they say?
they had an excuse for everything. By the next morning, we could tell there was already something going awry. He said this was just the perfect storm of everyone not doing what they were supposed to do.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. We've got an extremely important guest with us today, Sheila Humphrey. Is going to tell us a little bit about her experience and her father's experience at a nursing home facility in Oklahoma. And I just want to welcome our guest, Sheila. Thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of your day.
Well, you're welcome, and I appreciate the opportunity to get the message out there.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about, I know your story goes back into 2019. Your father had a car accident, is that correct?
Yes, him and his brother always went to breakfast every morning. They got up and would go eat breakfast in a little town they lived in, Inola, and my uncle still lives there. But and they were on their way back, and it was overcast and rainy, and two cars. My uncle was making a turn, and two cars went by. He saw those fine, but the third car we think maybe didn't have their lights on, and but we're not sure. But they got T-boned right into my dad was on the passenger side, and so they both went to the hospital with lots of injuries. But my dad was in St. John's for a week, and the very next day I flew out that day of the accident. I didn't get there till the next morning because I got stuck in Dallas because of a storm. But anyway, I got there that next morning, and he was sitting up in bed talking. He loved to tell stories about his life and his family and everything. But he was talking, he would share, and he was laughing. I mean, even though he had broken ribs, he was laughing. He was in good spirits. And after being there for a week, they said he needed to go to rehab. Thought that had it all worked out. He went into the hospital on a Friday. He went into the nursing home the next Friday. It was November 1st of 2019. And by the next morning, we could tell there was already something going awry. His mental status was, he was a little confused, and he wasn't talking as much.
Okay.
And he called me, and I was getting my mom ready to take her to visit him, and he called. He said, "You're going to have to come and fix my phone. They've done messed up my phone." And I was like, "Okay, you're talking to me on it." But
right.
So anyway, I got there, and just day by day, we could see different things happening, and just he started drooling out the side of his mouth. He wasn't doing these things when he was in the hospital. And
what was the staff saying?
Friday,
like, whenever did you report it to the staff and go, "Hey, I think something's wrong with my dad. Like, he's not." What did they say?
It's just they had an excuse for everything. That was on Sunday. He went in on Friday. On Sunday, the story's not pretty, but he had an issue, and I rang the bell, and nobody came for like 30 minutes. And I gave him grace because I know, I've worked in the medical field before a long time ago, and you've got a lot to do.
Okay.
But so I went walking down the hall to get to the nurse's station, and I looked at the board where the lights are to see if his room light was up. And I said, well, maybe that light's not working.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was there. But as I was walking down the hall, there was like probably almost 10 people standing around the nursing station right there in the center of the room. And as soon as they saw me coming down the hall, everybody just kind of went like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And so I went up there and I said, we need help with my dad. And so somebody came, and I mean, I was practically in tears at that point because I just was like, this, he doesn't seem right. He's, and I went and asked for the charge nurse, and I talked to her, and I said, it took 30 minutes for somebody to come and clean my dad up.
Right.
Well, he's having diarrhea. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's all the more reason he needs to be cleaned up quicker.
Right.
But so I ended up spending the night that night. Well, when they came in to pass meds that night, I asked the med tech what they were giving him, and she said Senecot, which is a laxative. Now, you don't give a person having diarrhea a laxative.
Correct.
But what had happened was, and I guess to answer your question, yes, everything. I was trying to communicate. I was trying to be understanding. Like I said, I've worked in the medical field before, and I was trying to be. I know what an issue it can be when, you got your family members hovering over you all the time, trying to make you do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I was trying to be very understanding, but
you were being his advocate. You were trying to be his advocate to say something's not right here. Something's going on.
Was. And the thing is, he went in on a Friday in the evening, late afternoon. The doctor only comes to visit one day a week, and he had already left on Friday. That's his date of visit. So when my dad got there, the nursing orders, they weren't even orders. It was what care my dad had received while he was at St. John's.
Okay.
Every med that he had been given was put into the record at the nursing home like it was an order.
Yeah.
And then that order was electronically signed by the doctor. So They didn't even review it. There was 2 different blood thinners on that record that my dad had been given in the time that he was at St. John's. And so they just entered everything, and then it was electronically signed like it was fine. Everything's fine.
On that same day that he admitted, the doctor just automatically signed it electronically.
Yeah, and he hadn't even seen my dad. So that number one is not kosher, in my opinion. I don't know legally if it is or not. But and then he didn't see my dad again till the next Friday. Through the week, there's a nurse practitioner there. And through the week, we did have issues. There was urine in his catheter. Oh, that was another thing. My dad had to self-cath when he was at home because he had issues with his prostate.
Okay.
And he was able to do that. He'd get up every morning, do that. He was able to take care of that. He was very self-reliant is what my point is there. But so when he got to the nursing home, they didn't want to deal with, getting his things because he wasn't mobile. They would have to make sure he had his things and everything. So they just put a catheter in. And proper cath care was not done. He got a UTI while he was there.
And he had not struggled with UTIs before when he was doing it himself.
I mean, over the years he had, that's why he had to eventually go to be in self-cath, was because he would get a UTI if he didn't empty his bladder all the way. He just wasn't able to empty the bladder without doing that. And so, there was blood in his urine. There was, his leg was hurting. And on Sunday when I was there, the aide came in that night, and she turned him and repositioned him and everything. And I said, the girl during the day told me that she wasn't going to do that because my dad was going to have to really start working hard on Monday when he started physical therapy. Well, he developed a bed sore on his bottom that had to have surgery after he went back to the hospital the next week.
Wow.
It was called an unstageable. It was so bad. It was unstageable.
Yes.
And so
due to lack of repositioning and turning, like it should have been turned. Okay.
Yeah. And so there was pain in his leg, so they did do ultrasound on that. And in the hospital they had a wheelchair that he could prop his broken leg up on. And it was a special type of wheelchair. And so I asked them when we got there on Friday, I said, can he get one of those wheelchairs so he can get up and around without having to hold his leg in a certain position, painfully. Oh, we don't have one of those here. It's at another facility. This person that owns this nursing home owns a total of 5 in Oklahoma, all around the area. And so they shared their supplies. And they couldn't get it back for a couple of weeks, she said. So, there was just, and the water wasn't working on either Friday night or Saturday night. The water in the kitchen wasn't working. And so for dinner, he got a hot dog that they had cooked on a grill outside and a piece of white bread on a paper plate.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Sunday night, the night I spent there, the heat went out. And so they had all these portable heaters they were rolling in down the halls and putting in people's rooms. So apparently that was a consistent problem because they were prepared for it with all these heaters.
They had the heaters readily available. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's just, when I finally was in contact with the lawyer and he looked through everything and started gathering information, he said this was just the perfect storm of everyone not doing what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to go into the whole detail of the main thing that happened. Okay, of course he had the bed sore and they never removed his boot off his leg, so that got necrotic. The boot rubbed against his shin, and that developed necrotic tissue that had to be cleaned when he went back to the hospital.
Wow.
He stayed at the nursing home for 7 days. And one of the main things that happened was when they entered the blood thinner medication, the injectable one, it was supposed to be a 30 milligram. Well, that was what he had been given at St. John's. Again, it wasn't what the doctor thought he needed at that time. It was based on what he had been given at the hospital. And when she did the drop-down menu, the person entering the orders, she clicked on 300 milligrams, not 30 milligrams.
Wow.
And that was to be injected every 12 hours. Yeah. And so, okay, there's the first mistake. Then, that order got sent to the pharmacy. And, the owner of the nursing home also was a part owner of the pharmacy. And, yeah.
Wow.
Talk about getting your money from all different directions.
Correct.
But the pharmacist, when they entered the order, the computer did call, raised a red flag. So the pharmacist called the nursing home and spoke to the director of nursing. And he said, no, that's fine. Go ahead and send it. Yeah. And then later we found out that there's a couple of, maybe 2 or 3 nurses had questioned the dose. And they had gone to the director of nursing and said, are we sure about this? This seems like a lot. No, it's fine. Give it to him. So that director of nursing had 4 or 5 opportunities to fix this situation. I don't think he ever once, even went to look at the orders or anything or question. When I spoke to doctors at the hospital after my dad was back at St. John's, they said, we don't give 300 milligrams to anybody unless it's a huge person and maybe 1 dose if it was, in a dire situation where they needed to clear, so that, it's not a common dose at all. So why would anybody, need that much?
And plus twice a day. Yeah, twice a day on top of that.
Exactly.
And the director of nurses never thought to call the doctor to question the order, to go, hey, this is at 300 milligrams. Is this correct?
No.
And the doctor had already signed off on it electronically as well.
Yeah. And the nurse practitioner, as my dad was declining, he got to the point where he couldn't really carry on conversations. And he just was kind of like, he was there, but he wasn't there, and my brother, he said, when I walked in and saw drool coming, he said, that's not my dad.
Right.
My dad is not there. Something is wrong. So yeah, we're telling him all this stuff all week. And then finally on Friday, when the doctor came in, I was like, you've got to do something. He is not spending another weekend in this place because he'll be dead. And so the doctor went in, punched around on my dad's belly, left the room, came back, and he said, yeah, we're sending him back. And I don't know if he went and looked at the records at that point. I don't know what made him make that decision, but he made it. And thank goodness. I say thank goodness, but my dad did live until January, but not easily. He had to have the surgery. And then I had to fight insurance because after he had recovered a little bit at the hospital, I don't remember now, it runs together, but they wanted to send him, they said he was free to go to rehab again. And I'm like, well, he's not going to, that nursing home, definitely. And I don't, we started driving around to different ones to visit him and just kind of get a feel for one. but you really can't tell when you just go in and they put their shiny face on and
Right.
everybody's so accommodating. Excuse me. And but there was the advocate. There's a person that works at the hospital who she suggested there's a step 2. It's like in between the hospital and the rehab.
An LTAC?
It's in Broken Arrow.
Possibly like an LTAC?
I'm not sure what it is,
Okay.
but they had an air bed.
Okay.
That had they could put my dad in to keep him from getting more bed sores and to help hopefully that one to heal.
Yeah.
He had to have wound care like 2 or 3 times a day, and it had the seal over the top of it. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but
Probably like a wound vac, I would imagine. Probably had a wound vac on, and it was an airless mattress. Okay. Very common in the industry, by the way. Nursing homes have those a lot. You don't have to be at like an LTAC. I mean, we have them, in a lot of our facilities. But yes, but it costs extra money.
The lady, yeah. And the insurance at first said no, and I spent maybe like 2.5 hours on the phone with somebody down in Texas explaining everything to them that had happened. And I said, he cannot go back to, because we had hopes that he was going to be able to recover and be, normal. And it took 3 days of medication to resolve the overdose of the blood thinner that was in his system when he got back to St. John's that next Friday. And, and that's when, in the emergency room, they're looking at me like, this is not good. This is so bad. This should never happen.
Yeah.
And, they didn't know at the time how so much blood thinner had gotten into his system. They just knew he had too much. They can do tests and then they give him medication, and over 3 days it resolved. And they did the brain scan, and that was the thing. My dad did have a brain bleed from the car wreck, but by the time he left St. John's, they did the X-ray or CAT scan, whatever they do, to make sure what was going on, and it had resolved. There was nothing, no evidence of it. But when he went back to St. John's after the week of being at the nursing home, there was 2 brain bleeds, significant. And so and when they said, what do they call it? Brain bleed. And I told a doctor about that. She said, well, that's a stroke. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't realize, but basically it is.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry?
Brought on by the blood thinners.
Yeah, brought on by the blood thinners. That's correct. My husband over here is coaching me.
That's okay. That's great.
So then, he went to that wound care, the specialty place in Broken Arrow, and he was there for, he could only stay 3 weeks. Insurance would only cover it that long. And then he went and by this time we're getting to end of December, beginning of January.
Okay.
And then he went to another nursing home, and then I think he was there maybe a week, and he had a UTI and, had gone septic to the point where he couldn't swallow. And so I had stayed 6 weeks the first time I went out there. And then I came home for Christmas, and we were also in the process of selling our home here and moving. And so I went right back as soon as he got sick again in January, right after Christmas. And I stayed 5 weeks then because he passed January 24th of 2020. Wow. Yeah. And it's just, but, the more depositions that my lawyer took. And the thing is, when we first found out that had happened, I called the state, and the state investigated, and they wrote a report, and they found all this stuff
Was that the first time, like when he went back to the hospital, the first time you reported what had happened to the state? What did they say? I'm curious about that, because they are there to protect the residents. And so I'm like, well, what did they do,
Well, from my understanding, they went and, they do what they call it's a blind thing situation. They don't know why. The nursing home doesn't know why they're there.
Correct.
They don't know who made a complaint. They just show up and they look at several different patients' records. And they're the ones that found out about the overdose. It was in the report.
Wow.
And it's my understanding that they were fined $85,000 by the state. And my lawyer also said that he was surprised that the attorney general didn't do some sort of lawsuit because of that situation.
Yeah.
But they chose not to. But that was also, we went into COVID. I think the whole COVID situation had a lot to deal with how responses were, because the system was overwhelmed.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. I mean,
and,
that's a minor statement. Absolutely, it was overwhelmed. We were not prepared for
yeah.
anything like that. Did the state get back to you with their findings and report?
Oh yeah, they sent me the report, and that's what I sent to my lawyer. And when he saw that, he said, "How can I not take this?
Yeah.
Because you only have a certain length of time to." But what had happened was I had a schoolmate that I went to Will Rogers High School with in Tulsa. He was a lawyer, and I was talking to him, and he had called the lawyer for the nursing home, and after we got the report from the state, and he said, "Yeah, we made a mistake, but we don't have any liability insurance, so good luck with that." Nonchalant,
Yeah.
attitude. And I just wasn't going to accept that. I was just like, this isn't, somebody needs to understand, and somebody needs to be held accountable.
Right.
The director of nursing, turns out, had been arrested a few months earlier before this happened